In the Christmas live chats, I saw some talk about taller bars and bar risers for taller riders. What do you guys think about lower foot pegs, like the fastway pegs that are adjustable height? Be interesting to see what you guys think about that, how it affects the rider triangle and the bike handling. Thanks.
Great question. Great question. Real GP, right?
Real GP.
OG member. Did he win anything during the 12 days of Christmas? Do you remember?
No idea.
Okay. If you're wondering what he was referring to, we podcasted every single day, we live streamed every single day for 12 days of Christmas, and it was a blast. And in those, I would just tell everybody everything that I wasn't supposed to, but then we'd have good conversations, one of which was about rider height, because I was with my friend Rob, who's 6'7". So we got into everybody was asking about, okay, well, how do you change bike setup? Should you change bike setup? And what's interesting is I train at the Dog Pound, where two of the tallest riders in Supercross, maybe ever, but definitely now, Jonah Geisler, 6'6", Benny Bloss, 6'6". Like, the tallest guys by far. And what's interesting is the only change that both of those guys have at 6'6" is taller seat. They have stock bars, stock foot pegs, stock bar risers, no bar risers, just a taller seat. And in fact, Benny might not even have that. I think he said he wanted it, but he doesn't have it. Jonah definitely does. I was looking at his bike today. He's got a big old seat, but I think everything else is the same. We had the conversation also yesterday at the Dog Pound, and Jet or Hunter and somebody said, hey, I remember seeing a setup of, I don't know if it was Jack Sakonis or somebody from Europe that's really tall, that the entire bike and geometry of the bike was changed, and that they brought the foot pegs up, they brought the seat up, and they did bar risers so the bars were up. And the reason they brought the foot pegs up was because when he was trying to have good footwork and drop his heels, he had size 14 boot or however big of a boot, and his heels would get caught on everything. So they were just trying to give him more ground clearance, which is super interesting. So to make the rest of the geometry of the bike make sense with bringing his foot pegs up, everything else had to go up with that, which is interesting. But what I will say is most people that ask about bike geometry changes or changes to accommodate their height normally are 6'1" to 6'3", which isn't tall enough to do anything, to be quite honest. The problem is when you start messing with foot pegs, for example, when you start moving around where the foot pegs are on the bike, that makes huge differences in how the bike handles. And for most people, I don't think that their technique is consistent enough to be able to make a change like that and know that the bike is actually better and it's not just something that they're doing better or worse for that given time. I think that people should be really careful in making big changes like that to the bike and how the bike is set up, unless you really are honed in with, you don't have to be the best rider in the world, but just be able to be super consistent and know that you're not doing anything technically really far off, or it's going to throw off all of those results. Like for me, on my Honda, what are the mods I have on my bike? I have a gut swing seat because I like the bowed out seat to be able to grip better. I have factory connection suspension, and I have Renthal 827 bars because I think that's the best bar bend. That's it. And I'm riding Supercross. So at a pro level, I really urge most people to keep their bikes as close to stock as you can. I think the rib seat is important. I think sharp foot pegs are important. That's another mod I have. I have titanium foot pegs. Fresh tires is important. And suspension that's set up properly and for your weight is important. Cam, anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, it's always interesting because most people who come up to us asking about like, oh, I'm like taller, like we need this, this, and this, and he's like, I mean, I'm 6 foot. They're usually like 6'1", you know?
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'm 6 foot, which isn't very tall. How tall are you?
5'11".
5'11". Yeah, so pretty close. Pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing needed. I mean, I think that typically people feel uncomfortable because they're doing something wrong, usually. Yeah, honestly, even at 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", you can get into the right position. It's just more physically demanding. The taller you are, the more physically demanding it is.
It's like riding a pit bike.
Right. That's always the analogy I use is like, hey, I can get into a perfect position, technically, on a stock KLX 110, but I tell you what, I'm going to be extremely exhausted in 4 minutes of riding that thing because it is so physical. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this clip and you want to watch full episodes of the podcast and send in video questions of your own, head over to club.themotoacademy.com.